Act 2017 Act 940. The following appointments have been revoked effective today. The Chief Executive of Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assembly. Again, Assembly members' appointments pursuant to the relevant sections of the Act. In the interim, the respective coordinating directors of the various MMDAs are directed to assume responsibility as acting Chief Executive until substantive appointments are duly made, the statements read. And we want to have a conversation on this, and joining us on the line is the President of the Chamber of Local Governance, Mr. Richard Fiadomo, for a conversation. Mr. Fiadomo, good evening.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening to all your cherished listeners.
Well, we appreciate you could speak with us. Now, the recent revocation of the MMDCE appointment by the President has created quite a stir. But how do you think this will also impact the efficiency of local governance, particularly in terms of service delivery to the citizenry?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it is within the powers of the President to remove MMDCE from office. If you look critically at the Act 936 or 940 as amended, it gives 4 ways by which the office of the MMDC will become vacant. Number 1 is what the President has done. Number 2 is that the MMDC himself or herself can choose to resign. Number 3, the General Assembly, by 2/3 majority of Assembly members present and voting, can cast a vote of no confidence in the MMDC and the position will be vacant. And if an unfortunate incident happens and the MMDC dies, that position becomes vacant. So number 1 is what has been exercised by the President. So it's within the law so to do. But when it comes to it impacting on the Assembly, yes, the budget of the Assemblies for 2025 was passed in 2024. So currently what is just happening is that the coordinating directors, because the budgets have been approved, they will be able to spend. And the coordinating directors are the spending officers, and the MMDCs are the approving officers. So there are certain projects which have already been approved, which are in session and are being attended to. But if by end of 2025, we do not get, not even end of by September 2025, if we do not get an MMDC, then that is where it will impact the Assembly, because there must be an MMDC to be able to, for budget to be passed, so that the Assembly will approve. So in the 2, 3, 4 months, it will not impact the Assembly negatively. And we expect that before April ending, there must be Chief Executive going forward. If not, it will have some impact. But until about 3 to 4 months, there will not be any serious impact on the MMDAs if there are no Chief Executives.
Mr. Fiadomo, again, the statement indicates that the coordinating directors are now to assume the role of acting chief executive until substantive appointments are made. So how does this in the interim arrangement align with provisions in the Local Government Act, particularly regarding to the qualification and responsibilities, as you mentioned, in the MMDCEs?
Respectfully, for that clause, I'm sorry to say that it's an illegality for the President to ask MMDCDs to act. It's a serious illegality. If you recall, Dafiamapo versus the Republic, the Supreme Court ruled that the Nana Danko Akufo-Addo acted illegally when he appointed MMDCs in 2017. And their term of office was supposed to expire in 2021, around June thereabout. Yet, when immediately he was sworn in as the President for the second term, he revoked the appointment of his own MMDCs he appointed and also asked them to now be in acting capacity. The Supreme Court said, no, that is an illegality. So you cannot have acting capacity for MMDCs. So it is strange. I want to believe it's an oversight for the President to even ask the MMDCDs to act. The reason why they cannot even act apart from the Supreme Court ruling is also the fact that the Chief Executives are the approving authority, and then the coordinating directors are the spending authority. It is for the sake of checks and balances. That is why the one approving is not the one spending, and the one spending is not the one approving. So if now the President asks the one spending to be the same person approving, then the President invariably or inadvertently is trying to promote corruption at the local level. And that one, we are looking forward that in the coming days, they will come and amend that particular portion and just get the chief executive to hand over to the coordinating directors, and the case should end there. But to ask coordinating directors to act, like I said, it's an illegality, and the Supreme Court has pronounced on that. And if we allow that to happen, then we are also going to promote corruption, because we have one and the same person approving and spending, and there will not be any checks and balances. So I want to believe it's an oversight, and even though it's an illegality, that one should be quickly amended so that no MMDCD should act as an MMDCD. The reason why, too, there is no acting capacity for in the local government system is that the president does not appoint MMDCs. The president nominates. And after the president has nominated, the General Assembly of that particular MMDA, they will sit, and with two-thirds majority of assembly members present and voting, they will either confirm or reject the nominee of the president. So the president cannot put anybody in acting capacity when it comes to the assembly. So I have stated it's an illegality, and I believe that it was an oversight, and in no time that aspect will be corrected. If not, within the next 1, 2, 3 months until MMDC is come, the coordinating directors would have run the assemblies dry.
Doc, let me find out from you. So just as you said, so does that mean that this restructuring rule, perhaps the restructuring will advance or hinder the decentralization agenda in terms of decision making and in the local resource mobilization?
Yeah, as it is, like I said, you see, the assembly runs, the General Assembly is the decision-making body of the assembly. As we speak, the president can dissolve an assembly if there is an issue for which reason it should be dissolved. But the president cannot dissolve the General Assembly or take decision for the General Assembly. Assembly members are also elected through the same universal adult suffrage to go to assembly and make policy. So the decision or the letter from the presidency is only removing the president's representative from the assembly. So resources at the assembly has not been tinkered with. The activities of the assembly has not been stopped by this letter. So the assembly should continue to do their development projects. The only difference is that if there is no MMDC, then new contracts cannot be awarded. So, for example, if there is a revenue collector of the assembly and his or her contract expired December 31st, 2024, the entry into 2025, the assembly cannot collect money because that person cannot report to have a contract to do so. So the chief executive will have to come in and award those contracts. But if those contracts are for 2-3 years and they are already in session, those revenue collectors can still go ahead and collect. So the development of the assembly technically does not come to an end because we do not have a chief executive. It is only transient, and in no time they will come. So the development of the assembly should not grind to a halt because the president has removed the MMBC. Like I said earlier, the budget for 2025 was sent to the ICCs, to the Minister of Finance, and the budget was read in November. So development should not come to a halt at the assembly, but the MMDC must also come early enough to ensure that if some contracts or contractors have expired, they can renew them. Yes.
So in this case, how fast should the president appoint? And perhaps I would also want to find out from you, would this revocation of the current appointments do, envision as the next steps for the appointment of the new MMDCs?
Oh, what I know that there must be a local government minister because he's the one the president is going to do the appointments through. So it is now behoves on the president to act fast and appoint his cabinet ministers and ministers. But before we can get an MMDC to be in place, there must be a local government minister. So I can only hazard the guess that latest by March ending, I think that the president should be able to appoint MMDCs across the country.
Doc, we appreciate your time this evening. Dr. Richard Fiadamo is with the local chamber of governance, the president, I beg your pardon, of local governance. We appreciate that you could speak with us. But away from that, let's move straight. Still in relation with the same conversation, some youth from the National Democratic Congress in Koforidua have taken a drastic measure by locking up several government offices, including the regional NIA and NHIA and NSS and NATMO and the municipal New Jabin South NIA NIA and NSS office are affected. Now, there's more in this report. Do take a listen.
People who visited these offices were left stranded and distressed over their inability to access services. Although calm has been restored, the situation has had a traumatic impact on the staff and the visitors. One of the affected individuals who had come to the NIA regional office shared his experience.
Somebody should be allowed to take the law into their hands, because if there is opposition to the activities they are doing to create altercation, it will not benefit anybody. And I don't think Mahama sitting in Accra has authorized anybody to come and drive civil servants with the claim that they are bringing people to work. You can appoint people to political positions, but not civil servants. People have applied for work, they've done it, and they have acquired some skills, and we should not be denied our services because some greedy people who want to do whatever they want. The rule of law.
Away from that, the government urgently needs nearly $90 million to avert a looming power crisis caused by insufficient fuel supplies for thermal plants, according to a report by the Ghana Grid Company. GridCo. The GridCo report outlines that the funds are required to procure liquid fuel such as light crude oil to operate thermal plant in Tema and meet growing electricity demand. The crisis stems from a generation capacity deficit following a pigging exercise conducted by the West African Gas Pipeline Company, WAPCO, which temporarily disrupted national gas supplies. Now, GridCo report details key strategies to mitigate the impact of the fuel shortage and maintain grid stability, to include rescheduling and planning maintenance, now securing alternative fuels and load management measures. The report warns that failure to act swiftly could lead to prolonged power outage, disrupting economic activities and public services. Stakeholders have called for expedited government actions to secure funding and implement the recommended measures to avert the crisis. Meanwhile, the new National Democratic Congress NDC government has concluded an emergency meeting with the stakeholders from the country's energy sector regarding the looming power crisis. According to the social aide to the president and MP for Abura Sebo as Kwaman Kese constituency, Felix Kwachi Ofosu, the government has received report from various stakeholders and the necessary actions will be taken. He assured the public of President's commitment in addressing an emerging power crisis.
Has been briefed in order to address the situation, because we know that it is pretty urgent. A technical committee has been set up that has representatives from all the key players in the management of Ghana's energy sector, and they have up until the close of day today to put before government a roadmap on what exactly needs to be done and how it can be done. So you can rest assured that government is taking the matter seriously and will do what has to be done in order to avert any difficulty for the people of Ghana. It needs to be stressed that the pigging exercise, or if you like the maintenance exercise on the pipeline, should have been carried out in October of last year. Government then, the NPP government, requested that they shift it to January 20th in order that they will have sufficient time to procure the alternative fuels, that is the liquid oils, to power the thermal plants within the period that gas will not be available. At least in about 2 national security briefings that the then president-elect held with the present government, he asked about the status of the procurement of oils, and he was given firm assurance by the then government that they had put mechanisms in place to resolve the situation, that there will not be the difficulty that we are talking about today. It does appear that that promise was not kept, and therefore the responsibility has shifted to the present government. But President Mahama is alive to the task. And
meanwhile, the former spokesperson for the Nana Addo government on governance and security, Dr. Palgrave Brachet Danko, has dismissed allegations that the Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration intentionally set a trap for the incoming Mahama government. He emphasized that they handed over a flourishing energy sector and that it is now up to the Mahama administration to resolve any challenges that arose.
the challenges that President John Dramani Mahama is facing on day 2 of assuming office. It's a purported sabotage from the SWAL Akufo-Addo Bawumia government. I don't think that is anything that would hold claim to. You had a former Energy Minister, the Honorable Herbert Crapper, release a statement on his Facebook page.
Which a lot of people have criticized. Which criticized.
I mean, which is why you are seeking clarity. Because which is why I'm stating that there was a 4-week transitional period. In that 4-week transitional period, these issues that the Honorable the Honorable John Dapo is raising and alluding to are not issues that could not have been resolved. I mean, we are very much confident that we left a lot of liquidity in terms of fuel for SemPower, which is why the lights are on today, and we left a lot of fuel for ASCA, who also will be receiving that. And so there's no way we will take a blame for that at all. I mean, I think that the President John Dramani Mahama would rise up to the occasion to be able to meet these issues. And I don't think that he wants to be reminded of the legacies that he left in years past. This is a legacy correction that has brought him back into office. And I want to see that he corrects those issues and not lay blame. It's too early to lay blame to a very successful government.
Dr. Boakye Dankwa over there saying that they left a robust and a flourishing energy sector to the Mahama administration, but looks like indeed there is some looming crisis, if I'm supposed to put it, because just as we know, GRIDCO is saying that we need about 90 million, close to 100 million US dollars just to be able to secure our energy crisis. But we have been joined via Zoom by the former chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee of the 8th Parliament, Mr. Samuel Atachia, to have a conversation. Sir, good evening and thanks for your time this evening. Hello, if you can hear me, sir, kindly unmute so we can audibly hear you. Right, so as he tries to sort out his sound, we also know that there have been a crunch meeting earlier. The President, John Dramani Mahama, together with the Energy Sector Stakeholders Committee, led by Felix Kwatue-Fosu, this morning we understand had a crunch meeting on how to resolve the energy crisis. Just as you heard Dr. Boakye Dankwa say, indeed the NPP administration left a flourishing energy sector for the new government. But is that the case? I believe Dr. Samuel Atachia is back on the phone again and he's joined us. Doc, once again, good evening and thanks for your time.
Yes, my good lady, I'm not a doctor, I'm Mr.
well, I mean, Honorable, I'm sorry for, I don't know if I'm uplifting your position or perhaps decreasing your position. But again, as you can see, I am not a female though.
Yes.
My name is Eric, but thanks for your time once again.
My joy as always.
So as we do speak, GRIDCO has reported, in fact, it has highlighted that Ghana needs about 90 million US dollars or shortfalls to avert the power crisis. Now, from the Energy and Mines Committee, was the committee aware of such debt?
Well, the debt is there. It's a huge debt, for the simple reason that the one at the end of the production chain, ECG, was going through some crisis. If you care to know that there's nowhere in the world that the transmission losses of power for the benefit of Ghanaians could be about 30%. So you have the independent power producers doing their job, trying to generate the power, and then when you sell, you pay back. Unfortunately for us, there's a pathetic arrangement in which you are not able to recoup, your sales, for the simple reason that you are going through some serious technical challenges. So what was significant, we brought it to the attention of all the stakeholders, is to get the Electricity Company of Ghana, plug in the loopholes, let them function full throttle, and then when they give you the power, which you will pay over time, then they will continue supplying, generating the power, and you continue to supply, and then there's sanity in the system. So the cash waterfall mechanism was not working, if you care to know, for the simple reason that there was a way to settle monies put in the cash waterfall mechanism. And it was ECG was supposed to do that, place money in there, and they share it according to a formula. And because they were always cash strapped, they were not able to put in the requisite money, which will be applied to those in the supply chain. So they'll have good money, and then consistently, they'll be able to supply the power for the benefit of Ghanaians. So it is imperative, if they are having even emergency crisis of they looking at they looking at gas and the rest of it, it's imperative that we should make Electricity Company of Ghana a very functional entity that can help everybody, because they don't sell, they don't produce the power. The power producers will do it. They sell the power to you. If you're unable to, sell it to the general public and make optimum profits, you can put it in the cash waterfall mechanism so that we have a harmonious way of power generation and power sale. This is the whole matter. And we brought all the stakeholders together and even sent a copy of our report to the president.
Honorable, I want to find out from you, as we do know, this crisis, according to GRIDCO, stems from a combination of factors, including the capacity deficits. But do you believe that the government under your tenure adequately planned for such contingency measures, or were there missed opportunities to improve the energy security?
You see, the energy security is there. The government shouldn't do much about it. In fact, sometimes they have to underproduce. If we have more capacity, we can even export to neighboring countries. But the problem is when the cost of production is high, so you have to look at they using diesel instead of gas, which is cheaper. Then the cost of production will go high. And then when you have produced for the benefit of ECG, and ECG is underperforming by reason of the 10% losses they are, transmission losses that they are incurring. And it comes back to the point that the distributor of power, the main end point where they sell the power, is cash trapped. They can't pay the independent power producers. And if they are not paid, they are unable to generate the power as you need. And that is what the whole vicious cycle is. If you are not able to look at it from that perspective, it's a joke. And now there's also the necessity to look at solar. You see, because you need a credible energy mix. It shouldn't be just what the IPPs are doing, but you should look at solar. We are a tropical nation, and we have the power of the sun. Can we sort of use it so that we can depend on solar as well? So it depends on your energy mix. Nuclear. Can we say we want to look at nuclear? So that it's not just you going to find some fuel somewhere very expensive on the world market, or having gas challenges, and because of that, it will have a knock-on effect on power production. Is very, very expensive. And then ECG is also having its challenges, and we all suffer for it. So I think if you look at the manifestos of the two parties, they are anxious to solve our power challenges through a mix. As a nation, we should converge on a common understanding as how do we solve our power problems. Right. And power has no party colors. Electricity is used by NDC, is used by NPP. So let's look at it and have a harmony. Now, this is where we want to go as a nation. Nuclear, solar, and then what the IPPs can add to make it strong. Then we can be a net exporter of power to neighboring countries. You should look at it. Hydro is also critical. So these are some of the things which will be for long run, benefit. Now we should work towards that. It's so important.
Honorable, let me find out from you, as someone who has been part or was part of the government that oversaw the energy sector reforms, how do you respond to criticisms that the regulations and oversight of the energy sector under your watch were ineffective in preventing the current crisis?
It was not ineffective at all. What will happen is that when you have an oversight, you don't control the pace. What you do is to wake up the players to their responsibilities. So, for instance, we were very, very strong on ECG that, look, you need to do something about 30% or so transmission losses. There is nowhere in the world that somebody who is selling power to the general public will have a whole loss of 30%. That is serious. So, therefore, you depend on, 2/3 of the money you earn, to pay back to those who are supplying the power to you. So we were never lame in trying to tackle the issue. That's why we even had, we did some serious engagements. And then we sat down, stakeholders were there, everybody was trying to complain what is happening. And then we understood what VRA's input is all about. And we did a lot of good work, I should tell you. I'm a lawyer by profession, but I got very good people, Gina Paul, Kwabena Donko, Amako Fibua. They were all good guys who understood the power sector. And we drove it. It was very, very non-partisan approach to resolving power challenges in the country. And we should go that way. That power doesn't wear political colors. And we should be interested that we converge at a point in which we give the best policies and do what is right so that we have a consistent power supply.
All right, Honorable, maybe before I take leave, or you take leave of us, as we do know, government is struggling to make some 90 million to avert the crisis. But do you think the administration of your government failed, to take action or earlier actions when the warning signs were clear?
I do not think so. It was a perennial problem, if you have a sense of what is perennial. So even no matter how hard they try, if they don't plug in the loopholes, they'll have similar challenges. So what is perennial is embarrassing. That means you are aware of what is going to happen. So we should take a quality decision and say, look, if we have to privatize ECG to make it 100%, so it functions full throttle, we should take a decision and do so. Because you can't have a state institution that is losing 30% of what it supplies. It's not on. So if you don't attack the problem foundationally, and you want to say, let's do a blame game that always MPP is NDC, it will not help us. Tackle the problem foundationally. And when it's MPP or NDC, the problem is tackled. What can we do as a nation to ensure that we have a very flexible power mix to reduce the cost of production and also, by necessary implication, the cost of power? Do we need an energy mix? You should look at these things. What is the, poor managerial tendencies of ECG, which is bringing this about? What modern gadgets do we need as the electricity seller to ensure that they'll be able to see who is trying to tap wrong power from whatever into a factory, and by that there's a loss? There are several technologies of recent origin that can help you do this. We look at these things critically, and then we have a solution. I don't believe in anybody thinking that, oh, if you go the same, route, you'll get the same results. You will never get the same results.
Right. Honorable, we're grateful for your time this evening, and we appreciate that you could speak with us this evening.
Thank you very much for having me.
Honorable Samuel Atachia is the former chairman of the Mines and Energy Committee in the 8th Parliament. Once again, Honorable, we're grateful for your time. But away from energy, let's move straight to Parliament. And Minority Leader on MP for Ufutu constituency, Alexander Fenyumarkin, has rejected the description of the Minority Caucus as micro-minority by Speaker Alban Kingsford-Bagbin during the third sitting of the first session of the 9th Parliament. The minority side rose in agitation, failing the floor with the chant against the Speaker's choice of words leader of the minority caucus, Alexander Fenyo-Markin, argued that it is undermined the dignity of the NPP caucus. He called on the Speaker to retract his description and argued that the standing orders of the House do not allow for such categorization. The Speaker in turn agreed that this description was not right, but argued that the minority leader misled him into using the name because he had previously used it.
I shall, in response to what you just said about your duty to protect the micro minority. Mr. Speaker, the rules of this House provide for the minority and the majority. Mr. Speaker, we do not have any micro minority. Mr. Speaker, the minority caucus hereby protests. Mr. Speaker, we protest the description given to us by Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this practice of when we are on our feet, the majority will on the mic, it's not acceptable. Mr. Speaker, it's not acceptable. We are Democrats. You put off my mic. Listen to me. Mr. Speaker, we find this unacceptable. Mr. Speaker, the minority seconded your proposal and the motion for your election. Mr. Speaker, when the so-called majority was even conspiring against you, we protested. We stopped them from that conspiracy. Mr. Speaker, it was us, the minority of conscience. This minority is the conscience of this House. Today, the so-called majority could not get its members to come to the House. 61 of you are absent. Mr. Speaker, we don't accept the description micro minority. We are minority. Simplicity. Mr. Speaker, please, kindly, Mr. Speaker, describe us as...
Meanwhile, the majority side of the House demanded an apology from the minority leader for alleging that they wanted to oust the Speaker of Parliament and were not in support of his nomination. Majority Chief Whip Governs Kwame Agboja, who rose to the floor of the House, argued that the minority leader's allegations were unfounded and he should retract and apologize to decide accordingly.
And order says that, and I read, a member shall not use offensive, abusive, insulting, blasphemous, or unbecoming words on a member or any other person, or B, impugn improper motives.
Please.
Other person. Mr. Speaker, my colleague suggested that the majority was conspiring against you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I have it on record when the minority leader at political functions was describing you in words that can never be used on this floor, and said, Mr. Speaker, that the greatest injustice to Parliament was to elect you as Mr. Speaker. You said that on political platform. Today, a 10-court minority leader is now pretending he loves you more than the people who actually you belong to. We can tell you this. Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, and I know you've got the tapes and the videos. But what I will say is that for the fact that he described us
as conspiring against you, he must actually withdraw that part of the statement now and apologize to us.
And apologize.
And Mr. Speaker, hold on, Mr. Speaker. He described us as the so-called majority. Look at you this way and look at this. Is this a so-called majority? Do you describe this as a so-called majority? This is a proper majority. And this is, Mr. Speaker, the size of this, let me repeat, the size of this looks like my district assembly. The size of this looks like the size of my district assembly. Do you like?
Away from Parliament, there were tensions and they have been flared up again during the collation of parliamentary results for the Ablekuma North constituency as agents from the National Democratic Congress and the New Patriotic Party NPP clashed over the authenticity of pink sheets. The Electoral Commission on Monday, January 6 temporarily suspended the collation process of the Ablekuma North constituency due to unresolved issues with results from 7 outstanding polling stations. Now, out of the 20 outstanding polling stations before the collation exercise on Monday, January 6, presiding officer successfully authenticated 13 of the pink sheets and submitted by the NPP. The returning officer Vincent Oben explained that the commission has been unable to reach the presiding officer for the remaining 7 polling stations, prompting the decision to suspend the exercise for the day. But the brawl erupted when the NDC agent accused the EC and the NPP of conspiring to rig the election in favor of the NPP candidate and for a free year. Beg your pardon. Now, let's take some of the scenes that happened earlier with tempers flaring up at the constituency, at the collation. So those are scenes from the Collation Center. Earlier I said constituency, pardon me for that. But we have been joined by my colleague Andy Opon Denchim, who's still on the grounds to report. Andy, we do understand that there have been some calm restored, but paint us a picture what transpired earlier at the center.
Exactly. So, Melo, I'm still here at the EC Regional Head Office here at Ridge, and the protest ended 20 minutes ago, and here where I'm standing in the office, there's nobody here. Everybody is out with the police and everybody. But during the protest halted for an hour as chaos and confusion erupted in the process, whereby the NDC was mentioning and saying that they won the seats as usual. The NPP is saying that the seats they haven't won, they rather won the seat. But the 62 polling stations vote, they said that won't be accepted because 2 of the polling stations, that the presiding officers didn't come to confirm the result. So there is only one presiding officer who came and was given the pink sheet to confirm. And in his confirmation, he even mentioned that he's a pastor, he's fasting, and there's no way he's going to lie. So he made mention from the pink sheet. They made mention of the figures, the vote cast, the total votes from the NDC and from the NPP, that's Nana, Efriye, and then Oben. And then he made mention, he saw that there is a rejected ballot, and he confirmed that at the process during the election day, there wasn't any rejected ballot, so he can't confirm to that. And as I said, Nana Efriye is here, that's from the NPP, and in her response, speaking to the media, she's saying that she's very optimistic that yes, indeed, she has won this seat as we going back, the 2 parties or 2 political parties going back and forth. She really believes that she has won this seat basically because the polling station that has been collected so far, she's leading, so she believes that she has won. And then the constituency officer of the NDC for the constituency, that's Musa Kalami, also addressing the media, stated that the 3 other polling stations that are outstanding. So today they really came here for the 7 polling stations, and they were able to do 4. But there were other 3 that is outstanding, and they were back and forth. And he made some claims that Monday they'll go to court and go and really continue from there. So let's listen to him and let our viewers understand this conversation better.
You know, we face objections at every level. I'm trying to be consistent with the system too. I am telling you, I just brought you one PO whom they said confirm. He spoke to you and he told you the last time he didn't confirm. So what it means is that all those they brought for confirmation, we will not accept it. We are not accepting it. So we will go back. In any case, we are going back to court on Monday. So we will hear what the court says. We will still stand by our grounds for the 62 polling stations to be rerun.
Has the electoral commission told you anything?
They have not told us anything. But we are giving you, you know, they are players in the game. We are also players in the game. When you are acting, when you are dealing with this type of issue, you must always be ahead of your game. You are acting, when you are dealing with this type of issue, you must always be ahead of your game. If not, they will beat you.
Right. So, Andy, we also do understand that the collation officer over there, the returning officer, says he won't be part of this process, and so he's leaving. Walk us through what exactly transpired again with the returning officer on that bite.
Sure, Melo. So here today on Wednesday, as the back and forth, as we listen to the constituency office of the NDC, that's for the constituency, Musa Kalami, he made mention that Monday they will really go to court with this the outstanding 3 polling stations to be declared. So as the presiding officer came, as I mentioned, he was declaring on the election day the vote casted for the MPP in Nana Free and for the NDC or Albany, and then he made mention that he can confirm, and he can good on authority can confirm that there wasn't any rejected ballot. So the return officer addressing the media also made mention that the Ablekuma North constituency should look for another return officer because he's done with them and he's not going to not going to play the role as a return officer anymore. So I think we'll also listen to what the return officer has to say basically about his submission to the media.
We've been able to do 4 out of the 7. So we are left with 3 more. We brought our presiding officers here. 2 came and they couldn't authenticate the statement of who and declaration form. 1 said she can't come. So that is the 3 now. It's so unfortunate for me to make this statement that I'm done with Ablekuma North. They should find a new return officer to continue their work. Thank you.
Earlier, my colleague Andy Opondenchi giving us some reports over there. Andy, if there's anything to add to this, let us know.
Sure. So, Melo, in finalizing this conversation, so as the returning officer, Mr. Oben, said, he's telling the Ablekuma North constituency to look for another returning officer, but unfortunately, he's not going to be the returning officer for them. So the 62 polling stations that reduced to 7 now today, they came here to finalize on 4, and then the outstanding 3.
Right.
Hello, can I continue, Melo?
Well, unfortunately, it looks like we've lost Andy on the phone, but we'll bring you more conversations in a subsequent broadcast and bulletin. But we're back with some business news. Do stay.
Hello, paint lovers. Welcome to 2025. Tabby Paint is excited to kick off the year with Tabby Semi-Gloss Paint, where innovation meets sophistication. With a superior coverage, a radiant glow, and a durable stain-resistant finish, Tabby Semi-Gloss Paint transforms spaces effortlessly. Designed for beauty and longevity, Tabby Semi-Gloss Paint saves time with fewer coats whilst delivering vibrant and easy to clean surface that stays flawless even in the busiest areas or under harsh weather conditions. With Tabby Semi-Gloss Paint, every coat is a promise of quality and excellence. Elevate your walls and inspire your spaces with Tabby Semi-Gloss Paint. Tabby Paint, the choice for your amazing spaces.
Welcome back. And in business, inflation for December 2024 went up marginally to 23.8% from November 2024 figures of the 23%. Now, this is higher than the revised 20% end-of-year target set by the Bank of Ghana. The marginal increase in December inflation was influenced by rising prices of some foodstuff on the market over the past month. Food inflation for December 2024 went up to 27.8% compared to 25.9% in November 2024. However, non-food inflation went down to 20.3% in December compared to 20.7% in November 2024. In addition, inflation for locally produced items went up to 26.4% in December 2024 compared to 25.4% in November 2024. Also, inflation for imported items went up marginally in December to 17.9% compared to 17.6% in November 2024, and alcoholic beverages, tobacco, and narcotics recorded an inflation of 28.4%. Now, food and non-alcoholic beverage also recorded 27.8%, while housing, water, electricity, gas, and other foodstuff went up by 26.3%. We're back with some more stories. Do stay. We're back again with some more business stories, and Ghanaians have commended the newly sworn-in President, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, for his successful inauguration ceremony yesterday, calling on him to reduce the dollar to create a way for easy access of foreign food, goods, and access of foreign expensive things in the country, the loan of expensive goods in the market, and call on him to do something as he starts his tenure today.
So that everything will be normal. And then secondly, to the education system, the PSHS, I want him to continue and then expand it.
The new administration is in power, but the best thing they should do is to make reasonable and sensible use of our taxes. That's the best thing. So those who have looted the nation in the previous administration are not to be spared, because we never asked them to come to power. They came to power to serve us, but they rather came to power doing what? Looting the state funds. So when you are being elected as a leader, the best thing you should do is to make useful of our taxes. That's the.
We have gotten the change we want. Just pray that he does what he says.
Yes, the whole atmosphere was okay yesterday. In fact, we enjoy or like whatever happened yesterday. I can say the arrangement was okay, all right, and the cleaning and everything you know, it is today that everything will be done. Yeah, so that is it. It's a new government, so let's see the beginning.
The job, and also reduce the things that's high, like the dollar. Just to decrease it so that we can order things from outside or something, or get our own business.
Oh, looks sweet. We make fine. Oh, I like the way the thing go. Everything make fine. So government,
Up next is Sports Tuesday. In sports, West Ham have parted ways with manager Julian Lopetegui after 6 months in charge and are in talks with Graham Potter about succeeding him. Former Wolves boss Lopetegui, 58, was appointed in May following the departure of David Moyes, but officially took charge on July 1. The Hammers won just 6 Premier League games during the Hispanic Channel. Saturday's 4-1 defeat by Manchester City was 9th loss in 20 leagues games in the season and left the club 7 points above the relegation zone. The club have held talks with former Chelsea and Brighton boss Potter about taking the role, initially on a short-term deal. The club have also parted company with Lopetegui's backroom staff, including his assistant Pablo San, head of performance Oscar Caro, head analyst Juan Vicente, fitness coach Borja de Alba, and technical coach Edu Robio, former AC Milan boss Paulo Fonseca, and ex-Paris Saint-Germain manager Christophe Galtier, currently in charge of Saudi Pro League club Al Dubail, and have also been spoken to by West Ham. However, the belief from both camps is that Potter will get the job, and West Ham's next game is an FA Cup third round tier to Aston Villa on Friday. And in more stories, France World Cup winning manager Didier Deschamps says he will step down after next year's tournament in the United States, Canada and Mexico. The 56-year-old is France's longest-serving coach, having been in charge since 2012. He led Blue to victory at the 2018 World Cup in Russia, as well as reaching the final of the 2022 tournament in Qatar and Euro 2016 on home soil. But France have yet to begin their 2026 World Cup qualifying campaign, with their group dependent on the result of the Nations League quarterfinal against Croatia in March. Let's bring you some international update after this. The Nigerian military has confirmed that 6 of its soldiers died in a battle in the northeastern state of Borno. The army is reported to have killed more than 30 insurgents, and Major General Edward Bube said on Wednesday that the military had killed 34 Islamist militants in a gun battle in which 6 soldiers also died in Nigeria's northeastern Borno state. He said that militants belonged in the Boko Haram and Islamic State West African province groups, who also launched pre-dawn attacks on Sunday. The militants launched their attack from trucks and motorcycles at the Sabin Gari base on the Borno State's Damboa district, and they were said to have ambushed troops returning to the base as well as military vehicles. According to the military, soldiers backed by the reinforcement from the Civilian Joint Task Force and vigilante groups successfully repelled the attacks. And Borno has been the center of extremist violence in Nigeria since the Boko Haram extremist group launched an insurgency in 2009 to enforce their interpretation of Sharia law. The insurgency, which has spilled over the Nigeria's 3 neighbors in the Lake Chad region, has killed more than 35,000 people and displaced 2.6 million others. The latest attacks occurred Sunday in Gabon Gari village in the Daboa Council area. Let's wrap up with some entertainment updates. Ani Entertainment celebrated the Ghanaian actress Akofa Ejeni has called on the president, John Dramani Mahama, to assign positions in the creative arts sector to people who are really qualified for the job. Speaking to the media, Akofa said for the sector to blossom, the right people must be appointed to the various positions. Akofa indicated that the creative sector is an important aspect of life and cannot be underestimated.
Film and theater in general, it's very important to the growth of any nation. And so we should prioritize the creative sector. We need to do this. It is how you set your foundation right, because without culture you're nothing.
Yeah.
That is the soul of any nation. But most times we are detached from it. We put arts and culture somewhere else, and we are in another place. And so, you know, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we have a firm foundation before we start putting the structures. Otherwise, things are going to be falling apart like they've been doing all these years. So this time round, we should have that round table discussion, serious one, and set things straight. Let's reset and rebuild, as the president is saying. And if he's serious about that, then he should put the right people in place who understand the impacts, the socio-economic landscape that the arts bring, the rebranding, the tangible and all the intangible things that we bring to the fore, and how it can bring about growth in terms of